There are 23-mile-per-hour winds blowing out at Wrigley today. Keep an eye on that game and also look ahead to next week's two-start pitchers on the RotoWire Fantasy Baseball Podcast. Welcome to the RotoWire Fantasy Baseball Podcast. We are brought to you by Vivid Seats. I'm Clay Link of RotoWire.com here with FSWA Hall of Famer Todd Zola. Always a pleasure to be on with you, Todd. And yeah, still scoreless here at Wrigley, but we'll definitely keep you updated on any scoring. A lot of scoring.
Take the over
this afternoon. Yeah, I think the over/under was what, like 11 and a half.
11 and a half, and that's with at least one. All right, is Burns good? Is a question, but on paper, a good pitcher going.
Yeah, so one of those wacky, windy days at Wrigley, and we'll see if they go over.
It's not just windy; it's inclemently warm too.
Yeah, it's kind of the same here in Madison.
Yep.
They're not super close to Chicago, but
we're getting it tomorrow.
We had some hail
Eugh.
this morning, and my power got knocked out. And
ooh, that's
now
not
it's
good.
It's in the 60s, so we're all over the place.
Yeah,
here.
we're in the 80s in New England tomorrow. So
wow.
Whatever you have is coming our way.
Well, let's get into the Stake League pickups. Of course, the bulk of the show spent on the two-star pitchers for next week, but Stake League had pickups last night. And Jordan Leasure, the top ad, the Mike Clevenger experiment did not last long there.
No.
On the south side. Didn't end up getting a save. Took 2 losses with a 7.94 ERA, and they just decided to move on. So, this is not the route I would have gone, and I was not really interested here, but I get it. There were, I was looking at the free agents last night and sorting by saves and who could possibly be out there. And really, there was nobody this week out there on the wire. So,
yep.
I get the, if you're feeling the pressure and saves, maybe you only have one closer or maybe even 0. You got to find saves somehow.
And put in a little context, this is a standalone league that you want to win, but it's also kind of a 50-50 league because you don't want to pay for the meal of some really hungry people. So even if it's 15 saves, that could mean the difference of paying a couple $100 and enjoying the steak without having to worry about whipping out your credit card.
Yeah, exactly. That's so huge because a couple hundred usually pushes up past 300, and just to avoid that, having to buy a couple steaks is huge.
Not that none of you guys have to go to the poor line in order to do it, but even so, $300 is $300. That's a trip to Vegas.
Plus a $75 entry fee, so you want to avoid that as best you can. And everybody's scratching and clawing until the very end of this league, which makes it a lot of fun. 16-team league, you really want to avoid that bottom half. So I get it. Randy Vasquez at 9. I'm hurting for pitching, but wasn't close there. Matt Strahm at 9. Adael Amador. This Rockies team, oh my goodness. They fired their hitting coach now. They're shut out for 3 straight games over the weekend. And just, you look up and down this lineup, it's like, how are they going to score runs? Amador at least getting a chance now. A brief debut last year, but I think more than anything, this is well, I guess they play at home this weekend, but then at Kansas City. Not somebody who I expect to, light the world on fire, but I guess if you need some help, he, at least in the minors, has shown decent power speed combo.
For sure. And Tyro Estrada is out. That's the bar he needs to beat Amador to stay in the lineup. Whether he can do it or not remains to be seen. Like you mentioned, just a short 3-day homestand. And we talking off air, they've already been banged out for tonight.
Yeah. Rained out.
We'll check to see if they're rescheduled for tomorrow because it's against the Nationals and probably their only visit into town. But yeah, I mean, I think important, since we won't get to it when we're talking pitching probably, Brenton Doyle, the only guy you really care about in the Rockies, is out on bereavement leave. So he's going to miss at least this weekend.
And Amador 14 homers and 35 steals in just 100 games at Double-A last year.
Yeah.
And why only batted 227 in that span, but who knows? The Rockies desperately need some help, so I might as well see what he can do. Zach Veen not doing much so far. It's
Bryant's on the IL.
Yeah, rough. I mean that division is tough. They're really beating up on the Rockies when they can. So maybe the Rockies.
But yet, you know what? There's still the 12 for home games early in the season. But for home games, they're still the 12th highest scoring team in the league. So even within all of this stuff, it's still a top half. It's upper half the league potency of lineup when they're at home. So it's still not going to stream my guy because it's the Rockies or they're terrible. They're still in the upper half of the league with scoring runs at home.
Matthew Liberatore picked up for 8. The Cardinals
like it.
Cardinals moving to a 6-man rotation for the time being. Luis Angel Acuna for 8. I had a lower bid on him, but looks like he's kind of emerging as the primary second baseman. Brett Beatty not doing much,
and McNeil's playing center field on rehab.
Yeah, exactly. So I needed some steals too, so that maybe I should have gone Alec Thomas for 8, and then Chase DeLander, who was supposed to start tonight. You mentioned that game already rained out. This is one where I think I had a $2 bid, or maybe only one. Don't love him in leagues where you have to maintain your ratios, but starting pitching is really hard to find in this league, and at least for road starts, you have to feel even.
I'm still hesitant on the road.
We back?
You were frozen, my friend. Either that or you were doing a freeze frame on me.
Yeah, unfortunately, it seems like the internet just dropped out here in the office for a second. But I can hear you now. You can hear me?
I can hear you. That residual hail.
All right. Well, I was mentioning Andrew Abbott of the Reds getting the start tonight against Baltimore. Looked pretty good, but the Reds are still the Reds, and Emilio Pagan in the 9th may not be long for that role.
Maybe not. Diaz is back, right? Alexis Diaz is back. He pitched in a lower leverage scenario, walked a couple batters, but then settled down. You don't like the 3 walks in an inning and 2/3, but he in the second. Well, that was 2 walks in 2/3 of an inning. Then the follow-up game again against Seattle, just walked 1, but still just 1 strikeout. So Francona's doing what he said he was going to do and ease him back. Hasn't given up a run, but I mean, a 2.40 whip, that should be his ERA.
Yeah. I think it's pretty clear that Alexis Diaz wants to get back in that closer role. He's made that pretty clear. But the walks, it's just whatever it is with that hamstring seems to be just completely throwing off his command and control. And while Pagan has mostly gotten the job done. I mean, 2 homers back-to-back in that finale against Seattle, and you look at the home runs allowed for him, it's pretty crazy. So could be Diaz. I'm actually still holding on to Tony Santander.
Santillan.
Oh, Santillan, yeah, of course. Thank you for the correction there. Yeah, it's Santillan. It's who knows how it's going to work out, but I think Santillan's probably their best reliever there. But I do like the Andrew Abbott pickup for 5. Edward Julian seems to be coming on a little bit, and they're also bringing up one of their top prospects, and Luke Keyshaw, also picked up here for $2. I did not add Keyshaw to the default batting order, but with Willie Castro banged up, seems like Keyshaw will get some chances to play this weekend.
Yeah, this is a team. Matt Wallner's on the IL. It's in the outfield. You got Deshaun Kersey filling in there, but like you mentioned, with Castro and Correa both day to day, I don't think either hit the IL yet today. there's some openings, and they minor move, but it's a move. The Twins picked up Jonah Bride from Miami, who was able to activate Connor Norby, so kind of freed up Jonah Bride, who's kind of a corner infielder, and traded him to Minnesota. Ty France is doing the job, but other than that, this is a team that needs help.
Yeah, this team is. I know they just took a series against the Mets, but this team needs a bit of a punch on offense. It does feel like Edward Julian's starting to pick it up a little bit. Leading off again.
He's getting some steady playing time because of the injuries.
Yeah, and run atop the order too. So I kind of like that. I actually had him in this league, but dropped him really early on. I picked up Jac Caglianone. I mentioned last week that I was eyeing him up as a stash, and in this league, you know, you can stash players, and a lot of the top minor league guys are already rostered, like Nick Kurtz, Roman Anthony, even Caleb Durbin of the Brewers, who's getting called up today.
Yeah,
all rostered. So I didn't have a pressing need in my starting lineup. I could improve some spots, certainly, but more so I had some dead weight on my bench, and I just thought, you know, I know he's only at Double-A right now, but the bat to ball is crazy, and the Royals dead last in homers with 10 in the majors through 20 games.
And Michael Massey is the bar to beat as far as playing time for Caglianone. So that's not gonna keep anybody down. You'll get Massey in the lineup. Other places, Miguel Garcia moves around a bit, but yeah, Bobby Witt needs some help. He is made a play defensively last night that the runner was safe. He beat the throw, but it's like, how can a guy be so good at the bat and be so slick with the glove? That's not fair.
Yeah, he's an incredible player. And last week we talked about the A's not playing Brent Rooker in the outfield, and then like the next day he was in the outfield. So seems like over the past week, especially, they've been kind of preparing the lineup and adjusting things to make room soon for Nick Kurtz, who was rostered here, by the way.
That's what we're hoping, right?
Yeah.
We haven't really heard tell of an injury. The injury would be Miguel Andujar, because Day and Butler we know about, but we haven't heard of any injury yet. So that's good news. So what's Rooker up to? What's the count? More stats.
I imagine it's like 3 or 4 games, but
yeah, he has got 3 games in the outfield, so 2 more for conventional rulebook leagues, 7 more for NFBC.
Yeah, that'll be nice, assuming he gets that pretty soon. That would be really big. So we'll see. It seems like a lot of guys kind of on the verge. It feels like Roman Anthony's pretty close. We'll see what they do, but maybe that next wave prospects coming.
You think Anthony is dealing with a sore shoulder. I haven't been able to find out. He's been DHing, and being the level of prospect that he is, the organization's not going to have him hitting if the shoulder's like a real problem, right? You just shut him down. So the fact that he's hitting really well is a positive sign that the organization thinks that Anthony can move along with the shoulder being healed up pretty quickly. And what the impediment there, we talked about Michael Massey. The impediment is David Hamilton. It's making Ceddanne Rafaela a super utility, right? And maybe that's his best role. I was holding out hope defensively that, the Red Sox could put up with a weaker bat, the rest of the lineup could hit, because he has shown defensive ability out there, Rafaela. Maybe the best role is a super utility, because he can play infield too, and the bat hasn't come around. He's still young, clearly, obviously. But imagine Duran, Anthony, and Abreu, who people forget won a Gold Glove last year. That's a pretty good outfield defensively.
Yeah. And Marcelo Mayer also showing quite a bit down on the farm. And
he's making his move too. Yeah. I mean,
Trevor Story's got 6 steals, by the way. That's kind of impressive. Batting .299.
That's a bigger impediment, if you will, is Trevor Story than making Rafaela. He's kind of making himself a utility.
Yeah, Ceddanne, not a great start for him. Behind Jac Caglianone, I also picked up Angel Martinez of the Cleveland Guardians. Martinez, only 5 games, but 3 multi-hit efforts in those 5 games. Also has a steal. I need some speed here, as I alluded to earlier. Don't know exactly what his role is going to be, but 444 average early on. Kind of chasing a hot start here, but Angel Martinez is showing a little pulse.
It's a different manager, right? Terry Francona is no longer with the Guardians, but they've shown that they will go, and this could be general man, there could be a decision that's made with the manager and the front office that they'll go with the hot guy. Now, when the hot guy becomes cold, they go with the next hot guy. But you could get lightning in a bottle, and who knows what Martinez can do. It's not, the players that he's going up against haven't done anything. John Kensey Noel turning out to be a bust. I'm dropping him everywhere. Yeah. Grennan, the bar to beat is not that high, other than Stephen Kwan, who's still hitting for power.
Yeah, I want to see if Martinez is in the lineup tonight, but I'm probably going to start him in my lineup here. 2 utils, and we'll see. Maybe I can catch lightning in a bottle. By the way, still scoreless bottom 2 at Wrigley, so win not quite making a mess of things so far. But
could have hit the ball to get it up in the air.
Yeah, no kidding. All right. Any other players on your mind for Fab this weekend? That's kind of it as far as big name. Calvin Fauché was also picked up here. Tony Gonsolin. Not a whole lot else. Alex Verdugo, if you're in a NL only, maybe.
Maybe, sure. I have to be honest. I haven't really dug into it. I finally have my rest of season engine converted, so I will start to be looking at these sort of things, getting a little bit of a slow start, looking for the weekend, because like you're suggesting, it's kind of nice to get an early start, so we don't jamming everything in on Sunday.
Matt Mervis is a guy who's also been being picked up on a lot of spots. So good luck with Fab this weekend. It should be an interesting run. And maybe if we get Kurtz and Caglianone up for long, maybe the wallets will really open up soon. Well, let's pause briefly for a quick prepaid word from our sponsors. All right, we're back here on the RotoWire Fantasy Baseball Podcast. Good to have you with us on this Good Friday. And we're going to now transition to next week's 2-start pitchers. Grade them on a 1 to 5 scale. 0 to 5. Probably will be some zeros mixed in here, almost certainly. Not going to be the case with Brandon Pfaadt, though, versus Tampa Bay versus Atlanta. They didn't assure him anything in spring training. They made him earn his spot, and still kind of a work in progress, Brandon Pfaadt, but last 2 outings have been really good. 0.77 ERA over his last 2, 9-4 K to walk in 11 2/3 innings. Again, versus Tampa Bay, versus Atlanta. Pretty good little 2-sub there. I think I'm going to go 3 personally on Brandon Pfaadt.
Because I'm going to go 4. But I'm higher on Pfaadt to begin coming into the season. Mm-hmm. I know he didn't have the job in hand, that he had to earn it, but I felt that he would. I like the home games. I like the division. I like the park. I'm sorry. Atlanta is going to hit, but right now they're not hitting. So I'm going to try to take advantage and give it a 4.
By the way, we had a Joe Boyle mention in the chat, and I actually had a down ballot, I guess maybe you could say, down the list sort of bid on Boyle, even though he was optioned back to AAA after his outing. But impressive in his first start of the season. I think it was his first career start with Tampa Bay.
Yep.
And kind of keeps Zach Littell on a pretty short leash. Maybe we'll see Boyle up again pretty soon.
If it's a stash, I agree 100%.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just the name to, even though he's optioned, don't forget about him.
I was surprised that I thought he was going to get another start, but what do I know?
Could be in short order. We'll see. Osvaldo Bido next up on the list, versus Texas versus the White Sox. So Bido's been pretty impressive so far. The whip is not what you'd like to see, but The whip was pretty darn good last year, so room for improvement there potentially. Some of the underlying numbers, not super exciting. It doesn't light up the radar gun. But Osvaldo Bido versus Texas versus the White Sox. I think I'm going to go 2 here.
Yeah, both at home. It's a Sunday afternoon, which during the later into the year is going to matter a lot because it's going to be 95. Right now, maybe not so much. I don't love the home park anymore. I'm going to go 2 as well. I mean, he used to be a knee-jerk 0, so the fact that we're both saying 2 is is something.
Yeah, and JT Ginn, another guy who could be picked up in that rotation this weekend. By the way, we have a score in Wrigley today. Pete Crow Armstrong doubled, and then Carson Kelly with a homer. His 5th.
Yeah,
Carson Kelly looking like a nice little pickup there.
And he missed some time with injury. Was hitting the hand, I believe. So
yeah, I mean, Miguel Amaya's pretty good option there, but that tandem really working out pretty well.
Exactly. Yeah, no, absolutely. Matt Shaw was sent down. Vidal Brujan. I doubt he'll go back to back with Kelly, but yeah, I think the guys made the right move in both instances by breaking camp with him and then cutting bait when they did. Let him get more confident. He wouldn't be the first rookie to struggle. He says, getting having to pay $1 to the cliche box.
Well, Spencer Schwellenbach came back to earth a little bit in his most recent outing. 6 runs against Toronto, so 6 hits, 2 homers, only 3 strikeouts against 2 walks. I think overall you have to be thrilled with what you've gotten out of him. Versus St. Louis at Arizona, I typically reserve those 5s for the very high end, so I'm going to go 4 here on Schwellenbach.
I think you could make an argument that Schwellenbach deserves the 5 at this point, even though it's only a year and a half or a year and 3 weeks of looking like he has. I'm going to go 4 as well, but I would not have chuckled under my breath if you had said 5. Which sometimes I do chuckle under my breath,
That's understandable when you're co-hosting with me. I get it. Dean Kramer mostly struggled this year, a 6.41 ERA, but widely available. And at Washington, at Detroit, any chance you'd give him some consideration in Fab this weekend? Dean Kramer.
I'd think about it, and I'd probably have him further down on my waterfall, hoping it doesn't get to that point. But I mean, the matchups aren't horrible. You prefer players to be at home, but the Washington lineup and Detroit lineup, they're not as scary. But I mean, I'm going to say 1 just because they're somewhere. I'm having him on a list as my 4th or 5th option. Knocking on wood that I get one of my first 3 or 4.
Yeah, I think that's really well put. He'd be way down the list, but probably a 1 for me as well, given the matchups here. And then for the Red Sox, Walker Buehler and Brian Bayo expected back next
Hopefully.
Week. So, seems like they play really early on Monday, right, against the White Sox, and then they
Patriots Day.
welcome in the Mariners. So different 2-step here for Buehler than it is for Bayo. For Buehler to be versus the White Sox at Cleveland, and for Bayo it's versus Seattle at Cleveland. So yeah, by the way, don't forget to get those lineups set early on Monday.
Yep.
For that Patriots Day game. Buehler, I think we kind of expected some struggles here. Came back and had some issues with the Dodgers at the end of last year, coming back from Tommy John. But then, pitched a little better in the playoffs. I'm expecting better than 5.23 ERA the rest of the season. And this is a pretty good 2-step here. I'm probably going to go 3 here for Walker.
Yeah, this is one of those things where because I saw it, I'm going to say it. But if I hear other people say it, I kind of go, I'm a numbers guy. That's nothing. It looked like in a couple of his outings, he was cruising and then he just ran into a wall. Because I happen to be watching the games, I feel more comfortable with that analysis than how I hear it from somebody else. And who knows if it was true or not when I didn't actually watch the game. So to me, that's something like you kind of alluded to. Once he's back, Buehler's back for a few more games, more stretched out, more comfortable with his post-surgery repertoire, he should be able to get over that hump. He's a good enough of a pitcher that'll go over that hump. So I'm with you on a 3. Cleveland can be pesky. but even at Cleveland especially. Bayo, Seattle and Cleveland. I mean, it's not a 0, but it's not like a 3 either. I'm trying to decide between 1 and you know what? He needs to prove it to me. I'm going to go 1, but before I go higher, he needs to prove it to me that he's worth it.
Yeah, I wrote down a 2, but I think you're probably spot on there with a 1. Ideally, you'd want to see it first and give him a chance to settle in a little bit before you throw him out to the Wolves there in your lineup. No 2-star pitchers for the Cubs. They have 2 off days next week. And then for the Reds, Nick Lodolo, tentative right now. He has been pushed back from this weekend, going on paternity list. Congrats to Nick and his family on the new addition to their family. Carson Spires now starting on Sunday. So tentative, but if Lodolo comes back and slots right back in, he would be at Miami, at Colorado.
Good news, bad news.
Yeah,
right?
Definitely. Was pretty impressed with what he was showing earlier. Not showing a ton of strikeout stuff, but then kind of had some issues against Seattle this week. Probably going 3 here. Especially because we don't know when he's coming back.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, this rolls back to what I was saying before, that Colorado, with all their issues, is still the 12th highest scoring team at home. It's just amazing.
Wow.
I mean, I was starting Mackenzie Gordon Knight in Colorado. I don't know if Lodolo has passed that bar yet. But gosh, even more players are hurt on Colorado now. I'm going to go 2.
Only 2, huh? Okay.
Yeah, it's still Colorado. It's still, like I said, they're upper half offense at home.
That is a daunting matchup, even if the offense on paper looks pretty rough. Now, Gavin Williams has been one of the bigger disappointments for me so far. Not quite to the level of disappointment as like Tristan Casas, but 4.58 ERA. He's got 1 win, but he's had some favorable matchups at KC, at the Angels. He just failed to capitalize. So, been a little bit of a disappointment here versus the Yankees versus Boston. Bit of a tough 2-step here, but since they're both at home, I'm going to go 3. But am I overly optimistic on Williams this week?
Maybe. I mean, after his first 2 outings wasn't all that stretched out. Remember, he didn't pitch a ton in the spring. He had a decent outing, but it was against the White Sox, 7 strikeouts in 5 innings. But then again, against Baltimore, giving up those 2 homers in Baltimore. I'm going to go 3 as well. Just, it's more on reputation. But these are a couple of tough lineups. Yeah, if someone were to say you guys are bozos and it's a 2, I would probably honk my nose and say you're right, but I'm going to go with the 3.
Yeah, it's not like I invested the top 100 pick on the guy, but where I drafted him, I just have a hard time seeing myself swapping him out. So I'm going to go 3. And then for Colorado, Ryan Feltner, he does get to go on the road to KC, but then home against the Reds, so it's going to be a 0 for me.
And for me, you can just put that on loop.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, next up here, 2-star pitchers. We got probably another couple of 0s here. Jonathan Cannon, Davis Martin. Cannon's at Boston at the Athletics, and Martin's at Minnesota at the Athletics. So,
yeah,
just not enough here with skills or team contacts, matchups for me to consider them both 0s for me.
No, I agree. Yeah, again, we talked about the wraparound. So the White Sox have the wraparound on Monday, so that's why these are different. Yeah. I mean, both of them, have in 5 outings, they're going to mix in a quality start. But are you going to have that active? Probably not.
True. And then no 2-star. Sorry.
There are some Smith and Burke, though, and the guys they have on the farm. It's not going to be long before we're not even talking about Cannon and Martin. We're talking about these young guns of the Chicago White Sox.
Yeah, maybe. I like what Shane Smith has shown.
Rule 5 guy. I like it too.
No 2-star pitchers for Detroit because we have Kiter Montero still in there. He's going to stick around, so made a start on Wednesday. Expected to pitch again, so it sounds like they're going to go 5 or 6-man. Sorry.
At least for the time being.
And then for Houston, Is Lance McCullers really going to be back this soon? Could debut late April. Wow. Kind of surprising a little bit to me, just given where we are in the season, the fact that he hasn't pitched in the big leagues, regular season since 2022. Thought he might need a little more time, but the Astros kind of, I don't know if they necessarily need him, but it seems like they're fast tracking him back to this rotation with guys like Spencer Arrighetti hurt.
I think they're at the point where if he's throwing, let's get him up. Let's not waste those. Yeah. Let's not waste those throws. Let's get him up here. He can't be worse than what we got. I mean, you got Gusto still in the rotation. All right, Wesneski had a little bit of a speed bump, but I think we're still cautiously optimistic on Wesneski.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so that'll be crazy if we do see McCullers back. It would be at Kansas City next week. We'll see. And speaking of Kansas City, Kris Bubic versus Colorado versus Houston. Lefty against the Rockies at home for
that's Tuesday night. That's my DFS. He's on my DFS lineup. I know that right now.
And he's, for his part, pitched really well. So it could be a tough one for the Rockies there. And then versus Houston. So Kris Bubic, I know he's been picked up most places, but if he's still out there, probably have to make him a priority this weekend. I'm moving 3, but I could see maybe a case for a 4.
Yeah, Houston's got a few injuries. I wish I knew exactly who was going to be healthy and who playing for him at that point. I'm going to go 3 as well, but it could turn out that it's worth a 4 if Houston's a couple of guys haven't come around yet. Christian Walker is still slumping. Diaz, they're just not clicking yet as a team. Cam Smith showed a little something, but isn't consistent yet. So that offense will come around, of course.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm with you there. Now we'll pause briefly, bring you a quick word from our sponsor this season, Vivid Seats. Finally, baseball is back this MLB season. Knock it out of the park with Vivid Seats and score great tickets to the biggest games of the year. Every fastball, every home run, and every eye-popping play of your favorite team, live and in person. Plus, with Vivid Seats rewards, you earn rewards with every single ticket purchase. Just buy 10 tickets, then cash in your credit toward your free 11th ticket. Talk about an easy win. And here's a pro reward tip. When buying tickets for your whole group, split the bill and make progress toward your free 11th ticket even faster. From behind the dugout to the upper deck, Vivid Seats has great tickets for all the 2025 games that matter to you. Just visit vividseats.com or download the app today. Vivid Seats. Experience it live. See vividseats.com/rewards for terms and conditions. All right, back to our 2-star pitcher grades for next week. Next up, we have the Angels and Jose Soriano versus Pittsburgh at Minnesota. Soriano, had some buzz coming into the season, but not a ton. And it's not like he's been otherworldly, but a couple wins, 20 Ks. Against 10 walks and 25 and 2/3 innings, pitching okay. And you like these matchups. Could be a cold one in Minnesota. We'll see about that. But versus Pitt at Minnesota for Jose Soriano. I think I'm going to go 3 here.
I am as well. I thought I'd have to talk you up to a 3. Yeah, with Minnesota, with all their injuries, I think this is a 3.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, what the weather's like next weekend, but yeah, you gotta like these matchups here. Pittsburgh looks very much ripe for the picking. So
yeah, they do.
For the Dodgers, two off days next week, so seems like they're pretty intent too on keeping Yamamoto and Sasaki 1 day a week.
Oh, for sure.
So
Glass now as well.
Yeah, Friday is Yamamoto's day for the time being. Saturday, Sasaki's day. Max Meyer for the Miami Marlins, not pitching poorly at all. He did give up 2 homers his last time out, but also 8 Ks against Arizona. So a guy with a bit of pedigree. I think we talked about him recently on the show, but versus Cincinnati at Seattle.
Not bad.
Yeah, not bad at all. I think I'm going to go 3 here as well.
I am as well. I mean, to me, it's very similar to Soriano.
Yeah.
I'd have to flip a coin if I had to choose between the two.
Yeah, two guys who I'd say Meyer more likely to be available in your league, but definitely worth checking up on both.
Yeah.
Quinn Priester has been pitching well for the Brewers since coming over from your Red Sox. He's at San Francisco, at St. Louis. Same two-step for Jose Quintana. Brewers dealing with a lot of injuries here, but a lot of these guys pitching well.
It's come to the point where you're happy when a pitcher goes to the Brewers. Who would have thunk? In that park. I mean, I don't actually. Both these games are away in good pitchers' parks, so I mean, I'm probably going to go a 2 for both. But I mean, just in general, Milwaukee's got the laboratory. They know what they're doing. The biostatistics, biomechanics.
Yeah, it's again they've been dealing with a lot of injuries, but they're still getting a lot out of these guys when they're on the mound. So
yeah,
I think I'm with you on it too. I mean, Quintana, he's been around a long time. We kind of seen the downside, but actually had a pretty good year last year.
Yeah, he did.
When you look into
in Citi Field, but even so,
yeah, true.
And I mean, San Francisco is a bit out over their skis under the hood, and I think their right-handed platoon players aren't quite as good as their lefties. So I don't mind the matchup with Quintana. Priester will have a little bit tougher of a go. St. Louis is kind of a mess as far as offense goes right now. I mean, Walker hits a homer, then slumps again. So we still need to see the consistency from St. Louis. Mason Wynn's been out. I think he's coming back. But when Mason Wynn, one of your top hitters, kind of tells you right there that it's not a very potent lineup.
Yeah, very true. In Minnesota, no 2-star pitchers for them. David Festa still in this rotation for now. But you got to think Zebby Matthews isn't far off. There's some thought that he would be up this week, but they decided to hold off. I don't think it'll be long, though, before we see Zebby Matthews.
Again, put that on loop, too.
Yeah, that's a good point. Now, Tyler McGill versus Philly at Washington. He'd been just cruising early on. Then he kind of hit a bit of a roadblock. Only 2 earned runs, but 4 runs over 5 innings against Minnesota. Before that, had only given up just 1 earned run over his first 3 starts. So, Tyler McGill versus Philly at Washington. I think I'm only going to go 2 here, but I could see the case for higher.
Yeah, I'm thinking about comparing him to the 2 guys we gave a 3. Yeah. And McGill's, I think, a better pitcher. The first one's at home. I know Philly's dangerous, but it's at home. And then you got at Washington. I think I have to give him a 3 just because I think he's on a level with, was it Priester and Mayer, I think, were the 2 that we gave 3s to. So I think, to me, he's in that same.
Bubic and Soriano.
Bubic and Soriano. All right. Yeah. To me, actually, add these 2 guys in there. They're all kind of in the same area, the same neighborhood. So
2-3 range.
I'm going to give him a 3.
Okay, I got a 2, but I got you down on a 3.
Philly's struggling, but I hate saying that because they can snap out at any moment.
Yeah, true. Now Clark Schmidt made his season debut this week through 73 pitches, and struck out 2, walked 2, 3 earned runs. Not terrible by any means, but not a fantastic start. Didn't factor into the decision. At Cleveland versus Toronto. I think I'd probably put him in that Bubic Soriano range. So I'm going to go 3 here on Clark Schmidt.
Yeah. Okay. No, I agree.
But sure. I kind of with you, like he's kind of in that Priester Quintana bucket, but just a little higher for me. So go Clark Schmidt. He's shown a little bit more and good team contacts. Aaron Nola's been one of the bigger disappointments so far this season. 0-4 with a 6.65 ERA. It seems like the velocity's down with Nola, and he's been so consistent over the years that I expect him to get on track. But at the Mets, at the Cubs, definitely not a 5. I'm still probably going to go 4. it's largely track record though, and if you put more stock into recent performance, you may lower him here.
I'm going to go 4 as well. I mean, to me, he's a Pavlovian 5. You mentioned the velocity. I need to look into that. He's still striking out more than a batter in inning, and to me, that's okay. Four homers in 21 2/3. What if it was 3? We wouldn't say anything. So that 4th, 27 hits. I don't know what the BABIP is. It's going to be over 400. Again, that might not be just luck. It may be some bad pitching as well. But Nola's not doing anything to defeat the every other year narrative, because this is the year he's supposed to be bad.
Yeah, his four-seamer is down a tick. It's not like he was a hard thrower anyway, but the knuckle curve down a couple ticks, a little over a tick. But, opponents batting 308 against that knuckle curve, although only a 246 XBA. So maybe a little unlucky here, but lose a little velocity. Yeah, tough matchups. It's just been a perfect storm for Nola to get off to a rough start here. But what, 8 years of consistency? Only one All-Star appearance, but you got to hold out hope that
he's walked 4 batters in each of his last 2 games, which is un-Nola-like. So maybe there's something underlying. Maybe there is something going on.
Robert in the chat just mentioned Zebby Matthews. We just talked about him. Not sure exactly when he's getting called, but it has to be soon.
Well, we all thought it was 2 weeks ago, so we're not the best people to judge.
And Chris Paddock's hanging on by a thread there. I would say by the end of the week of, by the end of April, let's just say, I think he'll be up. Probably a guy to stash, especially if you've already picked him up. I would hold on to him, Robert. Bailey faltered, lefty at the Angels, at the Dodgers. Not really any reason for me to dip my toes in here on falter. That'll be 0.
Yep, no reason at all.
Yeah, that's no reason to play with fire there. Then we mentioned Randy Vasquez during the pickups part of the show. Probably should have been rostered in that 16-team league, but you look under the hood. Yeah, you look under the hood, it's kind of
more walks and strikeouts.
Yeah, and not just like 1 or 2. It's 14 walks against 8 Ks in 20 2/3 innings. He still has a 1.74 ERA. It's not like the whip is crazy. 1.35 isn't great, but yeah, I just don't want to get caught up chasing the results on him so far. At Detroit versus Tampa Bay, probably only a 1. Are you going even positive digits here?
I am, just because it's San Diego and you can get the win and 2 starts and that sort of thing. 14 hits in 21 or 22 thirds, some luck there. No homers allowed so far. Yeah, the regression monster's ready to pounce, and I don't want to be there when it does. But yeah, 2 starts on the Padres. I'm going to go. Maybe it's our proverbial point leagues 1, but it's still a 1.
Yeah, I'm with you there. Then Bryce Miller for the Seattle Mariners at Boston versus Miami. He hasn't quite pitched like a 5. I'm tempted to go 5 here. I guess with at Boston, I'm only going to go 4. Excuse me, 4.
I'm with you as a 4. I see B. Miller, and I just, oh no, it's Bobby. Oh wait, it's not Bobby. So anyway.
Seemed like Bobby got off to a good start, and then he kind of went downhill.
Yeah, my tweak did not live very long on that one. People didn't watch the game. Bobby Miller with the Dodgers, he was all right early. Did not show confidence even when he was getting guys out, which could concern me a little bit. I wish I was doing a Todd takes that night, because I would have been talking about that. But then he got burned on a couple of soft line drives that fell in. Then he got squeezed, and then he just I'm not going to make excuses. Then he unraveled, and he just said, "Here, hit it," and they did, and they did, and they did. Cautiously optimistic for the future. He's not on my roster until he shows it. But if to me, I'm still somewhat on the bandwagon, probably by mistake, but anyway.
Well, it's never, it's too early to close the book on him, certainly.
Yeah,
and
he may be a change of scenery guy. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, the Dodgers, like we said with Yamamoto and Suzuki, they're keeping them on a pretty strict, once a week schedule. So there should be more opportunities for a guy like Bobby Millen.
Mentally, he's pitching for the Dodgers. He's all these great guys are on the team staff. Maybe it's in his head. I'm a numbers guy, but I mean, the game's played by human beings, right? So maybe there's just something. Maybe a change of scenery would just let him relax. Maybe relax, chill, dude.
By the way, for the Mariners, we're expecting tentatively George Kirby by the end of not next week, but the week after. So first week of May, potentially we get Kirby back.
Yeah.
Should be big, not only for Seattle but for fantasy managers as well.
Yep.
Then for the Giants, Robbie Ray and Jordan Hicks. Hicks is like, I probably wouldn't consider him because he's got a 6.04 ERA, but home against Milwaukee, home against Texas, probably go 1 here. Ray, I think he's got a 4.19 ERA, but he is 3-0. I think Ray's going to be a 4 for me. Hicks 1.
I'm going to go 3-1. Ray's just too inconsistent. He's ahead of the other 3s that we talked about for me. But if it was DVR, we'd be saying it's a 3.45. Can't round up, but it's close.
Yeah.
So anyway.
Well, I think that makes sense. I thought the hype train on Ray was getting a little out of control in the spring, just because we've seen him for so long, the track record of command and control issues and injuries.
Yeah.
Just looms large over Ray. No 2-star pitchers for the St. Louis Cardinals. They have moved to a 6-man with Steven Matz entering. Matz has been pitching pretty well. And so is Andre Payante. I know you were kind of dogging on my pickup a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
It's not somebody I feel great about, certainly, but
no, it's
he's pitched pretty well.
It's like any of these guys that if you don't strike batters out, you're vulnerable. It's not so much you're vulnerable. There are pitchers. Mark Burley made a career of being vulnerable. So it can be done, but it's scary.
When you allow that much contact, so much is up to the BABIP gods and the baseball gods. So
yeah.
Could be playing with fire on Payante, but he is pitched pretty well. And so is Matz, at least through several bullpen appearances and his first start of the season.
Yeah.
Zach Littell talked about maybe Joe Boyle getting the call soon. Littell 0-4 with a 5.48 ERA. So I'm going to go 0 and hope for a Joe Boyle call up soon.
I mean, you like the Parks, but there's good on the fact that they're good off. Well, Arizona has to prove they're good offense. Potentially good offenses outweigh the fact that they're pitching Parks. But I'm with you in a 0, which is where I mean I don't know about fan of Littell, but I think he's a decent pitcher. But it just doesn't look right this year.
Yeah, and San Diego is just a really tough matchup. I mean, it is in San Diego, which, again, like you said, is a pitcher's park. But, I mean, they're like the best team in baseball so far, the Padres. Aren't
they're
they?
coming back, getting contributions from lesser players.
It seems like they're running wild, too.
They are. Well, Bogarts has 4 or 5 steals. When Bogarts is running, something's going on there. Tatis, okay, fine. Machado, well, right, that's nice. But Bogarts has 4 steals. That team is just clicking. And when you're playing well, things like stolen bases seem to come. Let's see if they continue to run. They had a 1-game losing streak against the Cubs. Ooh, let's see when they run into a rut or they head into a rut. Let's see if they continue running.
Yeah, Machado more than halfway to his 24 total already. So
already,
they are running pretty wild there in San Diego. Which, if you're a fantasy manager of any of those players, you love to see. No 2-star pitchers for Texas. Kind of a weird story on Patrick Corbin. You see that? Bit by some poisonous bug, could barely walk into the clubhouse.
Yeah, and of course the people are showing. Well, that explains it. That explains why he's pitching so well. He's shooting webs out of his arm. It was, we're joking because he's all right, but that was it was scary. You're right.
Yeah, it's just kind of a crazy story.
Yeah, it is.
I'm glad he's all right. Robert had another question here, just to pause the 2-star pitcher conversation briefly. Manzardo versus Ben Rice, rest of season. Ben Rice has been one of the stories of the year so far, and I think I'd lean Rice here, just riding the hot hand. Manzardo was hot early too, but I like what I've seen from Ben Rice.
The short answer, yes, Rice can keep it up. he was wholly unlucky last year. The difference is Manzardo has more of a chance to play every day just because of the platoon scenario. So I might like Rice's numbers on a day-to-day basis more, but I think in a roto league, if he's just in your lineup and that's it, I may favor Manzardo. But I think Rice is he coming down? Sure he is. But he had 1,000 OPS. He was old for the level. He was just victimized a bit last year.
Yeah, I think he had a 4-hit game yesterday, didn't he?
I think it's a nice decision to have.
Yeah. I'd lean Ben Rice, but I get what you're saying on Manzardo. Probably more pedigree on Manzardo.
Yeah, I would not plan on, to answer Robert's next follow-up, I would not manage my team based on when Stanton comes back. I wouldn't. I don't think they're committed to him anymore.
Yeah,
I do not think that's going to be a concern.
And then Kevin Gausman's pitched really well so far. Had that one game where he had 0 Ks and then he rebounded to 10?
Yeah.
Let me double check. Yeah, 0 and then 10 and then 6 his last time out. So Mr. Splitty, as I think you called the splitter, seems to be working again. At Houston, at the Yankees. Tough 2-step for him here. I'm going to say 4, I think, but it feels a little high off the bat.
Well, considering he used to be in, a Pavlovian 5, I think 4 is probably makes sense. I don't say he pitches to the level of the opponent. That's not really fair. But I do think he's been around long enough that I'm not scared that he's facing a couple of good lineups.
Mitchell Parker's a guy kind of like Randy Vasquez, who's outperforming his underlying numbers, but Parker's underlying numbers are a little better. So he's got more Ks than walks, but only 16 Ks and 24 in the third, 9 walks. But 2-1, only 1 home run allowed, 5 earned runs. Again, walking kind of a fine line here and regression monster on his tail, but versus Baltimore, versus the Mets, a couple home starts for Mitchell Parker. I'll probably go 2 here.
I'm going to go 2. The fact they're at home aren't necessarily good because that's a good hitter's park. I'm going to go 2.
All right. Well, let's recap our 2-star pitcher grades for next week, the week of April 21st, 2025. Wow. It seems like we're about, a month in almost, but still super early. I mean, I still think people, and I fall victim to it too. You get caught up in what's happening now, but think about, in 6 weeks, it'll be June, and then we're still only about halfway through the season. So just try to keep the big picture in mind. 2-star pitchers for the week of April 21st. Brandon Pfaadt, I say 3, Todd 4. Osvaldo Bido, 2. Spencer Schwellenbach, 4. Dean Kramer, 1. Walker Buehler, 3. Brian Bayo, I say 2, Todd 1. Nick Lodolo, I say 3, Todd 2. Gavin Williams, 3. Ryan Feltner, 0. Jonathan Cannon, 0. Davis Martin, 0. Kris Bubic, 3. Jose Soriano, 3. Max Meyer, 3. Quinn Priester, 2. Jose Quintana, 2. Tyler Miguel, I say 2, Todd 3. Clark Schmidt, 3. Aaron Nola, 4. Bailey Falter, 0. Randy Vasquez, 1. Bryce Miller, 4. Robbie Ray, I say 4, Todd 3. Jordan Hicks, 1. Zach Littell, 0. Kevin Gausman, 4. And then Mitchell Parker, 2. Kind of an interesting crop of guys. We didn't have a single 5, did we? Not a single 5 this week.
Okay.
Kind of interesting. Anything else on your mind here, Todd, as we wrap things up on this Friday?
Yeah, remember the early game on Monday? We talked about that a couple of times, and you're alluding, still being early. The piece I'm working on now is you start out with a certain K percent. Where do you end up? You start out with a certain barrel rate. Where do you end up? Just as a way to kind of slow your roll as far as because the idea being there's so much information out there now. We think we know the answers, but we don't. But before we knew to be patient or whatever, or we're making a decision without the information. We think we have the information now, but we kind of don't. Just because the bat speed's there doesn't mean we know how to apply it right.
Yeah, we all want to think we know everything at a certain point, but it's always a moving target. We never.
It's our our friend Scott Pianowski. It's now I forget what Scott was going to say. Sorry, Scott.
I should know what you're alluding to. But
it's not the regression thing, because Scott has several really, really good sayings.
Mm-hmm.
I can't believe I'm blanking on this.
It's okay. You'll probably remember it later though and be mad at yourself.
Probably, and I'll probably text you or whatever.
I know the injury optimism thing that Scott always.
He's got so many of them, but no, it had to do with the wanting proof.
Wanting proof. Okay.
Yeah, basically, everybody wants proof. But if you wait for proof, it's too late.
That's true.
That's another Scottism, pianoism.
You're late on picking them up. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but the point being that I'm making is we now think we have the proof, but I don't know that we do. Anyway.
Well, good point. And thanks for bearing with me earlier when we had a little signal drop, but always good talking with you. And thanks for the active chat. By the way, we had Zebby Matthews versus Horton. Cade Horton. Yep. I'm going to go Zebby.
I'm out of my lane. I'm going to be honest. My opinion, I don't know. I'm not going to pretend like I know. I know my lane.
Yeah. Well, I think that's smart. I'm mostly leaning on, pedigree and prospect ranking here. Right. I like Zebby a little more. Well, thank you guys. Really appreciated everybody being in the chat. And we'll be back with you next week on the RotoWire Fantasy Baseball Podcast, brought to you by Vivid Seats.